Well, everybody, this is so exciting because this is the first time that we have done this video portion of the podcast, and could not think of somebody better. And I'm so excited to be able to share Steve
Oh,
Moore.
thank
Welcome,
you.
Steve, to the Flower Podcast.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be part of it.
Well, this inaugural, so everybody be patient if we have some technical issues, but we're going to get through this. It's going to be great. And so, Steve, I know Sinclair and Moore is the name of your business.
Yes.
I would love to hear just kind of for people. I can't imagine someone who hasn't heard of you, but I would love for people just to kind of get an idea of, kind of what your business does and maybe a tiny bit of history, and if you don't mind.
No, totally. So I started the business about 18 years ago, my senior year of college. So in 2002. And I originally started the business as a dressmaker. I used to make wedding dresses. I made wedding cakes. I played piano at weddings. And so when I first started, that's what I was offering. And then it basically evolved over time where I started adding wedding planning services to it because I'd been helping so many people with weddings. And so I started asking questions while I was doing a fitting, and a friend was like, you should just plan my wedding. And so I did, and I loved it. I loved it so much. And so I was like, I should just start a business where I'm incorporating all of these things together. And that's what I did. I started doing flowers specifically though, because I was planning these weddings and designing them. And then basically what was happening, what would show up at the wedding would be very different flower-wise than what I had envisioned. And so I just wanted to be able to produce that final look that I had promised my clients and really execute what was in my head. And I realized the only way to do that was by doing it myself. And so I took on doing flowers. For the first few years of my business, I did dresses, I did, cakes, piano, I did all the planning, and I did flowers, and that was a hot mess. And so
Wow.
I kind of basically weeded out the things that didn't bring me as much joy. So currently, Sinclair and Moore is, we do wedding planning, event design, and then floral design. Those are our three pillars of our business.
Okay. So, wow, I can't imagine juggling all of those plates up
Yeah.
in the air at the same time. I mean,
Well, I was in my 20s, and I didn't have to sleep. I was also working full time another job so I could afford to start a business as well.
Right.
So I literally would sleep a couple hours, and then some nights not at all. So I do not recommend that. I was such a hot mess the early years, but that's kind of the foundation that built everything else.
So, I know I hear from time to time a question like Sinclair and Moore. Where did the name come from? Obviously, Moore is your last name.
It is, yeah. So Sinclair and Moore. Originally, my business was Stephen Moore Designs,
Mm-hmm.
and I never really liked that name. A friend named it for me because I couldn't think of anything else. Once I got married, my wife joined the business, and people were treating her like she was my assistant or my secretary, and I wanted to really give her the ownership that she had because we were married. She owned half of it. So we renamed the business as Sinclair and Moore. Sinclair is her middle name. It's her mother's middle name. It's her grandma and great grandma, and I think it was her great great grandma's maiden name. So it's a family name. Our middle daughter, her middle name is Sinclair, and hopefully she'll keep the tradition going as well. So it's just a very special family name. For Jamie's side, Moore is, well, both of our last names, but it just had a good ring to it, so we went with it.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, I know you touched on it just a second ago. Can you mind sharing about your family? I'd love to hear just a little bit. I know you have
Totally.
kids. Yeah.
Yes. So I'm married to Jamie. She is the most amazing woman. She's kind and patient and loving, and just giggles her way through any situation, even the frustrating ones. She really is. If you follow her on social media, she really is just as wonderful as she appears. That's not a facade at all. She's incredible. I got very, very lucky when I married her. Very blessed. And we have 3 kids. Our oldest is Grayson. He is like my little mini me, and he's a little artist. He's emotional and sensitive, and he's awesome. And then we have 2 daughters. London is our 3-year-old, and she is crazy and wild and has this mix of wanting to be a princess, but also wanting to like crawl into the bushes and find the worms and dig up things. So, I mean, she's just this perfect little mix, and so fun. And then Wellesley is 11 months. She'll be 1 in a couple weeks. So we'll be celebrating her birthday in this quarantine probably. Wow. And she is the sweetest. It's funny like how you can see their personalities start to emerge just from so little, but she is sweet and quiet, but we're discovering she's also a little crazy, and it's kind of this dangerous combo of she does these like wild and crazy things, and you have to like watch her the entire time because she will sneak off and
and you lose your man-to-man coverage when you go to that 3rd one. So it's
yes, no, totally. So but I mean, all my kids are so much joy, and I mean, they're hard. We're just like every other family where one moment we're like all laughing together, and the next moment everyone's crying. But I mean, we're just like any other family. We have our ups and downs, but they make me so happy, and I'm a lucky guy.
That's awesome. Well, I know there's so many things we can talk about. And of course, the elephant in the room is the whole COVID-19 virus situation.
Yes, absolutely.
Before we kind of get to that, I'd like to, if you don't mind, can we dig into your business just a little bit more?
Totally.
I mean, so weddings, how many weddings usually do you do a year on average?
We do, and I don't know if you can hear this, but my kids are screaming in the background. But okay.
I love it, actually.
Okay, you guys will probably hear it, and they might even come running in here. So we can't promise that they will not.
It's all good.
But our business, basically, it ranges. Every year it ranges. There's some years we will do like up to 20, but that's only if they're on a smaller scale. Last year we had a few weddings that were massive in scale, where I made sure that I didn't have any other weddings booked, like the month of July, for example, so I could fully focus on this one client and give them all the attention that they wanted and were paying me to give them. And so it ranges. So this year we're probably planning between, well, who knows with the COVID stuff going on, but and all the cancellations, but probably anywhere from 12 to 15. Last year I think we did maybe 10. Some years we do 20. If they're really small, and I need the money, I've done up to 40. So, I mean, it kind of just depends. I think that the big thing for us is making sure we're not spreading ourselves too thin, and that we're able to really serve all of our clients really well and make them feel like they're our only client is always our end goal.
Well, and I'm sure they feel that. Do you feel like, well, let me ask this. Do you typically do everything for every wedding, or do people hire you for section, like just to plan or just to do florals, or is that part of the Sinclair and Moore package? Is you do it from A to Z? Or?
No, that's a great question. So we are full service, and we only work with clients that hire us for full planning, full design, and full scale flowers. So that doesn't mean that all of our weddings are at a certain caliber with budget. I think last year we did a wedding. I won't get into numbers, but we work with a very, very wide range of budgets. And
well, that's good to know.
Yeah, very wide range. But we are fully committed to doing only full service, because I found when we were doing partial planning, we were inheriting a mess that we weren't proud of, and we were scrambling to clean it up at the end. Or when I wasn't doing flowers, people had assumed I did the flowers, and sometimes what was showing up I wasn't proud of, but my name was part of it. So I think to protect the integrity of our business, we went to full everything mode. And I think that allows us to take on less weddings and then really serve each client well and make sure every wedding that happens, we're proud of every detail and that we've really wrapped our hands around it, wrapped our brand around it, and serve our clients better so nothing's falling through the cracks.
Yeah, I can imagine. I just get the feeling or the vibe from you that that must be really frustrating to kind of walk into those situations with surprises.
Yeah.
I know. I feel like in hearing that, that really, I don't know. I feel like that really must be, when people hire you and you're working for them, it must give them such a sense of peace, a sense of, I mean, I don't know. It's hard to fake empathy. It's hard to fake that level of service.
No, it is. I mean, and I'm pretty transparent. You can read my emotions on my face. Like if I don't like something or if I am not feeling a certain way, like my facial expressions can't hide it. I would say, like, for me, the way that we design and what's so important about our design is it's so personalized to each client. Every detail that's at the wedding, the small details, when you look at the font on the invitation, when you look at the texture, when you look at like the individual details that really make a wedding what we do, all of those details are so personalized to that particular client. And we can't design in a way that is that detailed where it pertains to them unless we know them. And we can't know them unless we spend time with them. And so for us, it just made sense. As we spend time with them, we plan the logistical details. And out of those conversations come these really beautiful stories that we're able to take and then produce something that's so personalized for them.
Well, that's amazing, and I can't wait to share a few pictures and just let people see some of your work, because I mean, not that they haven't seen it or couldn't see it on your Instagram feeds or social media or website, but it's just so incredible.
Hey, can I add this too? Like,
yeah.
Well, I say right now that we only do full service. With the way that our industry will likely change over the next couple of years, I am not above anything. So like if I need to change my motto, and I need to change like how we do things to put food on the table for my family and my employees, like I'll do whatever I have to do. So if someone is going to say like, I just want flowers, like I might have to be in a position where I say, great, let's do your flowers. Or if someone wants to hire us for planning and their aunt wants to do the flowers, while that is not my preference right now, like I will do whatever I have to do to survive and keep my business thriving and keep my employees employed and to keep everything up and running. So where you're at in business currently might change over the next couple of years. And that's okay. That's okay. That's how you evolve and adapt and stay afloat.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I think sometimes people are afraid to change. It's their brand. It's their reputation on the line. And it's kind of like, you know what, we're all figuring this new normal out.
Totally.
And so, yeah, where is that going to be? We don't know. And, I'm sorry, but if your flowers speak to somebody and you're willing to do it because of the situation, then yay. I mean, that's great.
No, absolutely.
So just so people know, in case they don't know, where are you located?
So we are, we're in Seattle. We're in the epicenter of where it all started, United States. My office is literally, if you guys heard of Life Center, the senior citizen center where all the cases were coming out of. My office is like 2 blocks from that, and the hospital where most of the deaths have occurred is on the same street where I live. Wow. So we literally are like in the epicenter of, I know the epicenter as of today has like shifted to New York, but where it all started a month ago, really tomorrow, where it all started is like here. I'm down the street from my office and literally on the same street where we live.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that has to be pretty scary. I mean, so how long? Okay, so give us a timeline a little bit. We're gonna, I guess, start diving into the elephant in the room here. What timetable has this been for you guys that you've been in quarantine, and as these things began to unroll,
totally,
or develop? I mean, you're, again, like you said, on the front line there. So
yeah. So you know what? I will be the first to admit, when I started hearing about the coronavirus, I kind of just rolled my eyes. I'm like, whatever. That's just another one of those things that'll never affect us. And as I watched the media try to get people hysterical about it. I just kind of rolled my eyes. And
I think a lot of us did. So
yeah, I mean, I'm like, it's the flu. It's whatever. That was my initial take. And I was on the phone with one of my clients. I'm supposed to have a couple weddings in Italy this year. And I was on the phone with one of them, and she was like, "What are you going to do about the coronavirus?" And I started like laughing. I was like, what am I going to do? I was like, I'm not qualified to speak about the coronavirus or do anything about it. And I just kind of like chuckled a little bit. And she's like, well, if the wedding has to be postponed or canceled because of it, like, I just want to make sure we have a game plan. And I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, that's not going to happen. You don't have anything to worry about. Like,
so how long ago was that?
That was middle of February.
Wow. So like this just wasn't really on the radar yet, like it is.
No,
now.
It wasn't. I had just got back from Italy, like early February. I had picked up it was Time magazine, and it was in Italy, and it was like what Italy's doing about coronavirus, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is insane. I just didn't take it seriously. So fast forward a little bit. We're at my workshop, my February workshop. It's February 29th. And we are closing up the workshop. It's the last day, the last couple of hours. And someone said, oh, someone just died. The first person in the United States died of coronavirus.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh, and then someone said, oh my gosh, it's here in Kirkland. And I was like, oh, are you kidding me? Like, what? And that was the first time that I started thinking about how might this possibly affect business. And I was more thinking like, shoot, are people going to be scared to come to my March workshop here in Seattle if they know that like I live on the same street where this person just died? That was my first thought, but like I still didn't think anything of it.
Well, I think we're also used to getting information from all these different places that conflict. I mean, it's rare that you hear the same thing twice, especially early on when, totally. It was still being compared to the flu. And you think we survived the flu all the time. I mean, that's like,
absolutely.
We go through these cycles. Or you hear about, the swine flu or bird flu or chicken flu, whatever it is, and you hear about these things. And I don't think we're desensitized to it, but we're so used to hearing about it, and it all ends up being fine. I mean, not that things aren't serious, but it doesn't have this global impact like this has. And
yeah, no, totally.
All of a sudden, these numbers start adding up, and the quarantines are growing across the world, and it's like, okay, this thing is, now we're on DEFCON whatever, and so.
No, and I think what I said was, I was like, you know what? Because people were talking about like how big this was going to spread and grow, and I'm like, they also said it was going to snow today, and there's no snow, so like, you guys, this is not going to happen. So that was February 29th. The very next day, another one of my clients that was supposed to get married in Italy on April 24th. I woke up to an email from her saying like, hey, we want to hop on a call this morning. It was Sunday morning. And she was like, can we please, I know it's the weekend, but can we hop on a call and discuss our wedding? Right. And I was like, okay, great. I'm just going to have to like reassure them everything's fine, blah, blah, blah. And then I got on the phone and they're like, we need to cancel our wedding in Italy. And my response inside was like, oh my gosh, you guys, you are blowing this out of proportion. It's fine. Like, it's in northern Italy that's being hit. Like, Tuscany is fine. Like, everything's fine. But they're like, no, we're canceling it. People are scared to go over there. And I thought it was a call that was like way too fast to be made. But we immediately started replanning their wedding for the same date in California, though, where they live. And so I'm like, great, I have 7 weeks now to plan a 3-day wedding for them. And I think that's when I started realizing like, okay, this is starting to get kind of serious. And then around me, everything was starting to blow up a little bit. Right. Schools were starting to shut down. My kids were still going to school, though. We were still sending them. We're like, they're fine. And I think when they closed down schools everywhere in Washington State until the end of April, I think that's when I was like, oh man, this is like legit. And then at that same time, I ended up feeling like I should probably cancel my my March workshop, and I started getting people that were asking, like, do you think you'll still do it? Attendees were like wondering about like their travel plans, and I thought they were overreacting. And in one morning, I wrote to someone like, yes, it's still on. And 2 hours later, I completely changed and said, we have to cancel it. Here's why. And I'm glad I did, because I mean, right now everything's on quarantine. No gatherings, are saying ideally more than 2 people. I mean, it was the right call. So, and I think that's when it feels like in the last 2 weeks, everything has just kind of like erupted into this mess, and my position has changed multiple times. From that wedding I was replanning from Italy that moved to California, that we very quickly planned all the details. Like, then they decided to cancel that as well. And then like a week later, like California shut down as well. So, I mean, their wedding wouldn't have been able to happen anyway. So, I mean, it's just every day there's just been so many changes. And I've evolved from going from like, oh my gosh, this is no big deal, come on, stop freaking out, to feeling angry at the people that are walking around and the places that are still open. And I'm like, if everyone would just like go home and like, take this seriously, we'd all be better. So I'm like, I'd rather cut off the foot than lose the whole leg. That's kind of been my mentality. So I've watched myself evolve and shift and change throughout all this. So,
well, I'm glad to hear that. I feel like everyone has taken that same path. I think there are people that probably were concerned more heavily early on, but you didn't just say anything that I don't think I said at the same time. And then like I was supposed to be, as people who listen to the podcast know, I was supposed to be in California right now. In fact, I was supposed to be coming home this morning, actually.
Wow.
And I was visiting farms. I'm going to be doing some different things there. And, when the call was made that there was a conference that that Kelly Shore from the Floral Source was putting together, when that got canceled, then I'm like, okay, I'm starting to feel like I'm glad that it didn't happen, because I'd have been trapped in California pretty much.
Yes.
Or have to go out and, deal in the whole San Francisco, Sacramento area, airports and things. And so that would have been challenging.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Do you find like, okay, so you mentioned cancellations. Are they rescheduling it? Are they trying to let the dust settle, then reschedule it? How are your clients handling it?
It's a mix for sure. And luckily right now, we only had a handful of things in the spring. Our season was really taking off in June. And the one did a full cancellation just because their situation is more specific and they just aren't able to reschedule. And they're also already married. So like for them, they're like, this was just basically a party for show. So like at this point, like let's just be done. Another one is rescheduling, but they're rescheduling for next spring. And so what that does to a business at that point is it takes another date off your calendar that you then can't offer. So this has already happened. Like someone that I rescheduled for next spring, literally an hour later, I got an email and inquiries and someone that really wanted to work with us on that same date that they had just rescheduled to. So I was like, great. So now I'm like not getting paid this year and I'm waiting a whole nother year to get the money. Plus like I'm losing out on another deposit that would have been paid.
Right.
It's a tricky time financially. And I think that's where you'll see businesses disagree on how you should handle it moving forward. So this particular client, we've been working with them since 2018. They hired us in 2018. So you guys, we're talking about 2018, 2019. The wedding was supposed to be in 2020, and now it's going to be in 2021. So by the time this wedding happens, it will be like 4 calendar years that we've been working with them. So I'll be very happy to celebrate their
to get them down the aisle.
Yes.
Something.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, one thing I think that, just us talking a little bit beforehand, you, you remember the days of kind of having a business where you're scrapping to do all the pieces. And you're prepared to, like you even mentioned, like, we're all evolving through this in some way.
Yeah.
What advice? I mean, I know there's so many businesses out there that are small business. It's, the average wedding they may do more of them, but the dollar amount might be less. It's really hard to make up for this. I mean, I don't know. I just feel like maybe, I don't know. What would you say to them to kind of either encourage them or to help them?
Totally. So first, let me just say that, like, I know on social media, it can appear that like we have it all together and that our business is sitting in a place where everything's perfect and great. In over 18 years, like, we've evolved and grown to a place that, like, I'm really proud of. A couple things. One, every business is affected by this, and any business, whether they're sitting well financially or not, when you get hit with cancellations and even postponements, canceled workshops, like, we basically lost about 6 months of income at this point.
Wow.
All of our spring income is out the door. So no matter where your business sits, like, that's a hard hit, and that's a tricky thing for any business to navigate and come out on top.
Especially coming out of the winter.
Yes.
Especially,
yes.
It's like, it's not like you just wrapped up a really busy season. No, you're running a business, maintaining employees and, facilities for a few months while the season's been kind of quiet.
Yeah. So just, in full transparency, my last wedding was September 23rd, 2019. So we're at the, like, what is that now? 7 months of no weddings coming in, or, not producing any weddings. That's a long time. So, I mean, every business in this industry, while they're in their winter season, and that season is different for different parts of the country, but
right.
In their off season, you're hopeful for spring. You're just trying to get to spring, and, like, you've put enough money to make sure you get to spring. So, like, when you're starting to, like, make money again, and then it's taken away from you, then you're like, oh, dang. Like, we got to be careful. Like, we just need to. So the other thing I did want to say, though, is, like, I have also been in the spot where my business got hit hard. I know back when the recession hit, in, what was that, 2008,
right.
My business almost tanked completely because that year I think I had 15 weddings, and 5 of those people went bankrupt on me. Several of those weddings I had executed, and I went to the bank with my check, and the checks from the client bounced. And so I had, like, paid for all the flowers. I did all the work, and they basically got a free wedding. And once someone files for bankruptcy, you get added onto their list of creditors, and it then becomes illegal for you to reach out to them and try and get your money. I did get, like, some money from a settlement from one wedding. I got $4. Another one, my settlement.
It's like, that's not worth the postage.
I know. That was the high one. Another one, it was like under $1. I think it was 90 cents or, and this is like a wedding that we're talking about. Like, I personally spent like maybe 10 grand on the product, thinking I was going to make quite a bit more money. So, like, I've been in the spot where I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to pay my rent in a couple weeks. Like, I've been in a spot where I'm like, I will only eat once today so that I can ration out the food. Wow. I'm grateful that I'm not in that spot currently, and that we have some savings that we can draw on and some investments to pull out. However, those will only last for so long. So, like, as a business, as we're thinking down the road, I can last maybe another 6 months or so, very, like, if we're careful, without getting rid of employees, without having anything else come in. So this is the kind of thing where it's like, you have to think as a business down the road as to, like, how am I going to handle this? What am I going to do? And that's where I said, like, I would be willing at this point. Like, if someone's like, I just need some flowers, I'm like, great. Here I am, me, like, bring me on. So you have to do what you have to do to survive. And so I think right now a lot of businesses are probably looking at the here and the now, and they're feeling scared. And I get it. I've been there. What you have to do is like pull yourself out and look down the road and say, what do I need to do to survive? What do I need to do? How can I get creative with what I'm offering? What can I offer that I'm not currently offering that might bring in a little bit of money just to help us get over this bump in the road? And I think it's hard to be creative and think outside the box when you're also living in this bubble of fear. When you are scrolling through social media and seeing like either everyone being fearful, so adding to this bubble of fear, or you're seeing all these other people, these influencers who are living this beautiful lifestyle, like nothing's happened, and still like boxes and boxes and boxes of clothing are arriving for them every day. And like it's hard to see that and be like, they have unlimited means. I'm trying to pinch every penny so that we survive.
Right.
If you can like get beyond all of that and get to a place where you can just think clearly, that would be my encouragement to like think through the next 6 months and what do you need to do? What do you need to change? How can you protect yourself so that you can survive this bump?
Well, I know that when we were setting this time up, you had mentioned, and yes, you may have already mentioned it. Actually, I think you did a little bit ago, that you were taking a social media sabbatical for a short time. That's the opposite of what most people are doing right now because they have more time on their hands. They're probably on social media more than ever. I know my phone told me how much I was up.
Mine did too.
And so I'm like, wow.
Let me talk on that for just a second because I've wanted to do a social media break for a long time, but social media is also how we sell our workshops. Right. It's how we sell our online courses. It's how we connect with potential clients. And right now we're in a phase where it would be inappropriate for me to be trying to sell you guys my online course. It'd be inappropriate for me, I think, to be pushing my workshops right now. I think there's not a lot of people that are looking to hire. So like, if ever there was a time for me to take a social media break, it would be right now. The main reason why I wanted the break though is because while this situation, this time is scary, and I think there's a lot of things that we can just get down on ourselves about, this situation right now is also really beautiful. And I think when else in our lives have we been forced to stay at home with our family? When else have we been forced to stop and pause and breathe? And there's something really beautiful about that. And I felt like this burden on my heart that I was going to miss it because I was spending my time scrolling instead of listening, instead of thinking, instead of reinventing, instead of repurposing, instead of just thinking about like who I could be and who I wanted to become in this beautiful moment of time that everything around us is paused in the stillness of time. I didn't want to miss it. And instead of like scrolling and being caught up in the fear, caught up in the advice, caught up in the comparison that's happening and just looking at other people that seem not to be affected by what everyone else in the world is, I just wanted to stop and listen and find that still small voice to hear and make changes. And even more than that, more importantly, like be present with my family. And hopefully my children will look back on this time and be like, do you remember that spring when like we were all home and we had so much fun and we made things and we baked and we painted, we had art projects and we read books. I hope that like they look back on this time not as like this disastrous season, not as that time that dad was walking around the house stressed out, but they look back on this time of peace. So that's my hope. And that's why I got off of social media for a little bit. So I don't know, it's been 5 days, but you guys, I haven't been off of social media for 5 days in the last like 10 years, you know? So, and I don't miss it at all. Like it's, I mean, there's a few people that like I miss seeing or connecting with, but I mean, if they're really my friend, they also have my phone number or my email address and they've been texting me or calling me or emailing me. And so I don't feel like I'm missing anything right now. So it's just a temporary pause. I'll be back on for sure. But
Right.
I needed that break, I think, to be healthy and to stay positive and optimistic. Yeah.
Well, that's I can appreciate that. I know that right now, as we've been transitioning with the podcast and doing new things, and what you just said really resonated with me. That I need to make sure that I am doing the very same thing. So my kids are older, but I don't want to miss that time with them either. I still have two at home. Two of my three are still here. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
And I just want to say too, like, there's also moments where I'm like, I can't wait to get out of here. Like, my kids are they're all screaming, like our house is all of a sudden, I mean, it's a good sized house, but it feels really small, and they're like on top of me. So it's not all like fun and games and butterflies over here. Like, there are moments where I have a video of myself where like all three of my children are just like screaming at the top of their lungs, like crying. And I'm like, I think I need to go to the grocery store. Like, what are we out of? We got to be out of something. So I just want to make it clear, like, it is not like this perfect harmony. It ebbs and flows, and you might have a beautiful minute, 1 minute, and like the next minute someone's like bit somebody or kicked somebody, and we're trying to like, anyway, it's beautiful and hard at the same time. And but I don't want to miss it.
Yeah, no, I can appreciate that. I was curious when I watch your feed and I see some of these things, and I mean, hearing that you planned this one wedding for 2 years, and this was the year, and now we're talking a third year and things.
Technically fourth.
Okay, that's right. 2018,
2019, 2020, 2021. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
No. Just want to be clear. It's four calendar years. Yeah.
Excuse me. I can't imagine, how do you juggle all of these things? Because you just think back to these weddings and you have all this time. How much delegation is part of your business model? I mean, is everybody want Steve Moore when they have Sinclair and Moore, or Jamie, or do they have certain people that you lean on more? Because I mean, there's so much detail in some of these events. There's
a lot of detail, and it's a lot to keep afloat, plus be a present father. So Jamie has kind of stepped out of the business for the time being. Just so her dream is to be a mom, and she really wanted to focus on being a mom. And
good for her.
Anyone who's in this industry knows that clients have the potential to suck the life out of you. I just responded to a client recently, a potential client who, if they're about to sign our contract, we were going to move forward. And they wrote me this email saying like, oh, one more thing. Like, I do expect that any email that I write to you to be responded to in a matter of hours. And I was like, I don't think we're going to be a good fit. Like, I can't promise that. And I don't want to live in prison to this fear of disappointing you for like the next year and a half. So I'm going to have to say that's a hard no on working together. So there's a lot of pressure, I think, from clients, especially in our day and age, to very quickly respond. And that's something like my wife couldn't commit to, because she can't answer the phone all the time. Sometimes we have crying kids in our home, and she can't. Like, we have a baby. So she wanted to be a mom. So right now, her role is, for like the last several years, has been performed by our lead planner. Her name's Erica, and she is a godsend. Like, she's amazing at her job. Her skill set is the opposite of mine. And so she really fills in these holes for us. She basically runs half of my business. She does all of the logistical planning, the spreadsheets, the numbers, all of the logistical planning. She's the one that will run the wedding rehearsal and run all of the details the day of the wedding. And then that frees me up to be the designer, where I'm able to really like let my creative juices flow and handle all of the creative direction of our weddings. So Erica handles the logistics of making the wedding functional. I handle the details of making it beautiful. We bring it together. On top of that, I am the one that runs like our social media. I do all of, if you're emailing the company, like, I'm the one who will receive that email. I have people tell me all the time, like, hand that stuff off. But I think what I've tried to do is create a very personalized business. And I want people to want to work with us because it's a smaller business and not, you'll get lost in the crowd of numbers or you'll never meet the owner. It's just not right now in our life. Like, that's just not the kind of business I want to run. And I want to know my clients. Like, I want to be able to like see those red flags and say like, this isn't going to be a good fit, and weed out the people that are going to add stress to our life. I want to do that. So like I'm handling all the business operations along with my accountant, and then all of the design side of it. And then we work with freelancers when we're working on the flowers. And I definitely don't do all the flowers myself. If you've watched any of our videos, I'll have a team up to 50 people on some weddings, wishing I probably had another 10 or 20. Some of the weddings are that big of scale. I do have a guy named Eric on staff. So I have Erica and Eric, kind of funny.
Oh my gosh.
Eric has been with me. This will be his 12th season. And he is the one that drives like the big truck and trailer. He's the one that like builds things. You'll see him in our videos. He's the one up on a ladder, dangling from something so he can hang something that I wanted hung. Like, he's amazing. He's like a little brother to me. And we were roommates before I was married. We've been to like,
wow.
We've been to hell and back in our relationship. Like, it's not all been fun and games. And there's years we've wanted to literally kill each other. And then we've built off of that, and we've grown as human beings, and I've become a better business owner. I think I'm a better dad because of him. Like, nothing will surprise me with my children. Like, I've seen it all with Eric, and like, nothing will surprise me with my children that they do. And I think I'm a more patient person, and I think I'm just better in general because he's taught me. He's had a lot of grace for me too, and I think I've learned to be someone that lives in grace, and I'm imperfect and I'm going to mess up, and learning to go and say, hey, I screwed up with you. Like, will you forgive me? So yeah, I've known him longer than I've known my wife, so he's,
wow.
He's an amazing addition to our staff, and I can't imagine business or life without him part of it. Yeah.
So how many, so that's, you have 2 people on full-time staff? Or
yeah, right now, we just went through, like, our studio manager from last year. She moved with her husband to Colorado, and they're expecting their first baby. And then we had a few other transitions. Oh, and I'm sorry. I also have Haley down in California. She is our California extension. And she's been working with us for several years, and she's incredible and so detailed, and we'll fly up to Seattle for our bigger weddings, and we'll, at a moment's notice, drop whatever she's working on to start working on a project. So there might be something that we're very busy on up here, but we have another client that's in need of something. So she'll come in and take care of their needs so that we can really focus on that client that is having an emergency. So we can fully make sure everyone is taken care of.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you have some real people you can trust, and
I do. And we've kept it very small. I try to keep my circle around me very small because I am doing as much myself. That also allows me to be able to pay people more versus you can only charge so much. And so the more people you have and the more people you have to pay, the less you're able to pay people. So this can be a lucrative thing for as many people as possible. We keep the circle of trust small. Then we bring a lot of people in for like the freelancing, like I said.
Right. That's what I say, because it's one thing if you were doing something every single week and you have flowers every week, or you have linen every week to have to be dealt with, or, but when you may have weeks or months where, you're gearing up for the next thing, you don't need the hands on deck. And so
exactly.
That's just a way to help be more efficient. And
I'm very careful in like not wanting to promise a job to someone that I can't stay consistent with. Like, I don't want to lay them off. Like, we almost rehired a creative director / studio manager this year, and then it didn't work out. And I'm grateful now, just given like where the economy is going, and just the state of everything getting postponed or canceled. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, everything works out how it's supposed to.
Right. I know I had a conversation with a group virtually. We were having a virtual party last night, and the topic of, and I know you don't have a crystal ball here, but the people were getting concerned about the price of flowers.
Yeah.
Because of either the supply being affected. I know parts of the world, the supply is still churning, but the distribution might be impacted, or all of a sudden, normally with a peak wedding season in the fall, now all of a sudden you're taking all your spring weddings and putting that on top of an already busy schedule if they're, postponing till fall. And now the demand, the production isn't going to be twice as much in the fall, if because we don't even know what that's going to look like.
Totally.
Are you concerned about prices at all, or pricing at all?
I mean,
and you may have a different business model, because I've heard rumors of this, on how you price things.
But I mean, it's still, the price of flowers will affect all of us, no matter what your business model is or how you price things out. I do price things differently than people, but it's, bottom line, we're all trying to make money, So if the cost of flowers goes up, it does affect all of us. And I think we probably will see the cost of flowers go up.
Right.
The farmers that are losing so much now, if we want them to continue to grow for us, we have to all kind of carry the burden together. I think. I'm hoping they don't go up exponentially, but for these people to stay in business, they're going to have to do something. And I want to make sure as many of these growers are staying in business so that we continue to get our good stuff. So I think a couple things. I have so many thoughts running through my head. So one, overall, this is a time that while we're scared individually, we have to get outside of ourselves and think of the community at large. And I think while something costing more money is going to affect and hurt in some ways, if you can spin it in your mind as but I'm helping this farmer stay afloat, they're not taking that extra money and going on some fancy vacation.
Right.
They're not gonna be and now that's $1 more, and I'm gonna take this money, and they're not throwing it up in the air and counting their money or making it rain. That is not what's going on here. They're fighting for survival, and so you have to keep that to the front of your mind. So with the cost of flowers going up, what this is going to do is it is either going to make people just get angry and bitter and frustrated, or they will use this as a season to reinvent how we do flowers. And that's what we saw happen in the last recession. Before then, and if you look back on my own portfolio, what we were creating, there was no greenery, there was no leaves, it was tight balls of flowers. And I used to pride myself on creating these beautifully, perfectly round pavés that had 4 or 5 dozen roses in, and I knew exactly how many, and the shape was perfect, and they were expensive to create. And it was this look of luxury. And I remember when the recession hit, it didn't hit my business right away. And I would look at these other businesses that were doing these garden style arrangements with only a couple flowers, and they were kind of weedy to me at the time. And I was like, oh, that's so sad for them. They don't have the budgets to do anything nice. But look at what it did. It changed how we did flowers. It changed what the growers were making. And now those pave arrangements are considered dated, and this garden style, even though this is still evolved in how the garden style is done, that stems back to, really, you look at the last recession, that's when that became popular, and you saw a big twist. So you know what? Yeah, flowers are going to be more expensive. The client might not have any more money to spend. They might even have less money to spend. So you can either spend your time crying about it, or you can say okay, how can I still create something beautiful? I'm going to take their budget. I'm going to see what the flowers cost. I'm going to realize this is what is in my pantry right now of flowers, and I'm going to make something that's incredible for them, and make it beautiful. And will it be different than what we've seen over the last few years? Probably, but I'm excited for that. I'm sick of seeing the same thing over and over and over. Another reason why I wanted to get off of social media for a bit. I think we're going to see some creativity. I think some things might look more simplified, but I'm excited for that. So what can you do with what you have and still make it awesome? So I would say, I guess.
I love that.
I mean, and I don't mean to like be naive or whatever, but like I think if you can realize you're helping the farmers stay afloat with increased prices, and even the wholesalers stay afloat, because if you screw with the wholesalers, if you get rid of them, if they're suffering, they're not able to get in the product that we need or take a risk and bring in as much stuff. They're going to be more conservative. So we need to help these other businesses stay afloat. And then, so that's one. And then two, like get creative with what you do have to work with. Like my own weddings are going to change. I'll probably have lower budgets. How can I still create something beautiful that I'm proud of, that still represents what I want my brand to be? And my brand will probably have to change a bit. And that's okay. That's okay. So I think just if you can enter in this next season of change with hope and excitement and creativity and passion and just like what's going to come out of this, that mentality, I think will go a long ways in helping you get over this hump over the next little bit too.
I love everything about that, because you're absolutely right. If you go into it with the mindset that it's all going to be fine and change is good, and you have that perspective of knowing how things have evolved to your business from one look to the next or even to the next. That's just you're just waiting for that next opportunity then, instead of being beating yourself up or being frustrated. It's just a mindset. And
I would say, instead of waiting for that next opportunity, like create that next opportunity. Instead of waiting to see who's going to set the next trend, be the trendsetter, be the person that like grabs it and like run with it. So, I mean, there's so much opportunity for people to like come out of the season on top and in a much better place than they currently are anyway. So I think we're going to see some fresh new designers emerge from this. And I think there's a lot of good. There's a lot of good. Yeah.
I wanted to ask just briefly, I know you're not a lawyer, but have you changed, or are you looking at like your contracts or how things are approached, and what are you finding, or what are you thinking?
Yeah, you know what? I am redoing my contract right now. I mean, I have kept my contract intentionally very simple, so it wasn't intimidating. But I also think like I could have done a better job in protecting both my business and my clients. And I think I have the responsibility. As my business evolved, my contract did not evolve along the way as much as it should have. And so I am doing some catch up with my own contract. There is, I just watched a webinar, all these things, fixing them up.
Okay.
I watched a webinar yesterday with If I Made, and they had a creative lawyer that was on there. And she has, I wish I could think of actually, can I look here for a second? Because I think this might be helpful for people. The business is called, let me see if I can pull it up.
I know last night I heard a lot of people in that group I mentioned earlier talk about how that was such a good webinar.
It was. So it's called Shop Creative Law. There are a lot of templates that you can purchase. They're on sale right now too. But Shop Creative Law, she has a lot of templates for, if you're a photographer, here's a contract template for you. If you're a wedding planner, even if you're a stationery artist or a makeup artist, she has a lot of different templates. She even has like an updated, after the coronavirus, she has a template for a cancellation and postponement clause that is legal. She does advise that, because what she created was like for her state, where she's licensed, but she advises you like it's a great contract, but still take it to a lawyer in your state to look over it and make minor adjustments that would need to be made so that it is legal in your state as well.
Which is much cheaper than asking them to start one from scratch.
Yes.
and
Yeah.
especially if they're not familiar with the wedding and event industry.
Yes.
You know, it's I've heard people talk about this kind of a thing, and it is such a huge benefit to walk in with a framework to just tweak. It's so much
Totally.
easier. Yeah.
It's instead of spending thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars to like pay a lawyer to do this, you already have the template. They're just making minor adjustments. And I think her pricing, for some businesses, you're going to look at her pricing and be like, oh, that's still too expensive. But it's probably one of the more important things you'll be able to spend money on. I myself, I looked at like the template and I was like, oh, I don't want to spend $400 on something. It's a little under 400 and there's like a discount on some of the stuff, but still I'm like, ugh.
But that could save you thousands. I mean,
yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yes, it's kind of like ripping the Band-Aid. Well, that's a bad example, but it's you know, it's a small ouch as opposed to a big
Huge.
ouch.
Yes. Yeah. So I think it's going to be, so I'm investing in that service. So, and then I'll take it to a lawyer and tweak it. And then I'll just feel better about it. I also think you're going to have a lot of clients reading each contract much more clearly. I mean, most of my clients, I'm with them when they're signing the contract. They don't even read it. They just go to the back and sign, which is why I haven't like put much effort into updating my contract over the last 18 years. Like maybe one or two things I've added when I've been screwed over. But it's basically the exact same thing I was offering 18 years ago when I was in my 20s, didn't know what I was doing. So I'm long overdue for a contract update. And I think clients will be much more closely reading what the contract says. What are the cancellation policies? So I would look at that, shopcreativelaw.com.
Thanks for sharing that. I know, I mean, to me, that makes me feel good knowing that, you know, even you know, this is just a season for us to make sure all of our T's are crossed and our I's are dotted.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's a lot of things that are happening, I know, especially for us personally, and for the podcast, that probably wouldn't have happened if this didn't happen. And I'm finding myself just like in this situation for you in the contract, you know, it's like, I'm thankful that I'm not having to hunt for silver lining in the middle of this. I'm glad that it's pretty obvious and at times that these good things are still happening, that we just needed to reset, whether it's more time with our family, whether it's looking at our contracts, whether it's just, you know, taking a sabbatical from social media, you know, or what have you. You know, it's different for everybody because everyone's at a different place. And I just appreciate you sharing that and being so transparent about it.
Yeah. I'm just like, you know, I think social media can make businesses look like no one has any struggles, you know, or that like their business is just totally perfect and they're so beyond any kind of frustration or struggle. Or, I mean, I have other people in the industry that I look at like that too, like, oh, if only I had their kinds of clients, and oh, if only like I was at that level of in my career. And so I just know, like, all of us, and I have to remind myself about the people that I look up to and admire as well. All of us have our struggles. All of us have like the things that we should have been doing that we weren't doing. All of us like have our imperfections. So just know, like, we really are all in the same boat together. And I think people's circumstances are going to be different. And I think there are some people that are hurting a lot right now, you know, and I think that, like, have a reason to be scared, you know, and like, it's a legitimate fear when you're like, I don't know how I'm going to provide for my family next month. That is a legitimate fear. And I think that in our industry, there are some people who feel that right now. You know, there are some people who don't have the kind of weddings where they've earned the wages that they could have put a lot of money away into savings. Or there are some people that are doing this that are not married or don't have a partner who also has additional income coming in. And so what they're making, what's being canceled or postponed, and like taking that income away, you're taking away everything, every opportunity to provide
household income.
So, yeah. And I think there's a lot of scary stuff happening. So I guess even on this podcast, if I can even just touch on that for a second, that's okay. Like, I just want to, if I could, like, encourage those people It's hard when you hear us talk about like the silver linings and all the good and all this time that you can have now to like update your contracts, because you're probably feeling like there's no point to update my contracts. My business will no longer exist. And you can't really go out and look for another job because you're quarantined in your home.
Right.
And now our Senate is hung up on even doing the stimulus package that could help small businesses, and that's not approved as of this moment. So, gosh, I just want to say to you guys, like I hear you. And I have been there in the past in other situations. And it is not easy. And there's no like, I think sometimes in those moments when people offer this Pollyanna word of encouragement, it just is more infuriating. And it is more cause to feel angry. If you can pause and get off of social media and just think, like, I truly believe that there's always a way out. I put it on social media, one of my last posts. I said, there's always the way out. It's never glamorous. It's never fun. It's never comfortable, but there is a way out. It might be you pick up a second job for a while. And that's okay. Like, I've had to do that in the past, just to make ends meet. It might be that you have to get creative and sell something else, or maybe you do a pop-up shop along with a restaurant, who is offering takeout right now. If you can get some flowers, and there are still a lot of wholesalers that will ship you flowers. Dutch Flower Line can ship you flowers. Mayesh, there's still enough Mayeshes open that can ship you flowers. Some of the local wholesalers in your area probably are still up and running where they can get flowers to you. Maybe you can do like a pop-up shop where you go to like a takeout place, and they can just say like, I need help. They need help too. The restaurant people will get it and say, will you also offer a bouquet along with it? So get creative, and you can make it through it. You absolutely can, but it's going to be uncomfortable and tough and hard. And I might be in that same boat 6 months from now. If things don't get better. Like, I don't know. I might be selling shoes at Nordstrom's. Who knows? Like, I'll do whatever I have to do to survive and do it. But I just want you to know your fears are legitimate, and that frustration of like everyone talking about seeing the silver lining, it's legitimate to like not see a silver lining right now. Mm-hmm. But hold on. There's a lot of beauty that can come, but it's going to be hard, I think, to get through it.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for saying that. It's so important. I really appreciate that. I want to make sure that people know, I know we're coming to the end here. There's two things I want to make sure of. We normally ask for a piece of advice, but I think you just nailed that 1,000%. So we're going to skip that for now.
All right.
Unless you had something else.
No.
But, that was so important. I think that was really powerful. How can people connect with you, or what's a good way? I mean, I know we don't know what the future is going to look like timetable wise, but you may have some things going on. And I just love to let people know.
Yeah. I'm in the middle of trying to reinvent myself right now a little bit too, and thinking like, who do I want to become and where do I want to go? And I've wanted to change our business for a while now, and now I have the time to think about it. So, connecting wise, like my social media is just a pause. It's not like an end forever. Honestly, by the time this podcast goes live, like I probably will be back on Instagram. We'll see. But I'm hoping to do a few more lives. You can always reach out over Instagram, or even don't email me, please. My email is already full.
Your website.
Yeah. Like you can, if you have a question, or if you just need some encouragement, like you can reach out to me. It might take me a day or two to get back, but I do try to get back to people as quickly as possible. And especially when I hear some of these stories that people have written to me, like I will do my best to get back to you. We do have our fall workshops. That it's not the best time to plug those. But if you are looking for something to look forward to, we have our fall workshops that you can find on our website. That'll help our family out as well too. But those are going to be awesome and beautiful. We have our online courses as well. So yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, Steve. Thank you for taking the time, being a part of this, and being on the Flower Podcast.
Hey, can I say one more thing real quick?
Absolutely.
Real quick. Okay, sorry. I know, and then this will be over.
No,
I do have a piece of advice. This can be a very competitive industry and very cutthroat industry at times. But this, I think, is a time for all of us to band together, especially as business owners. I think that when people, this is my advice for us as a community, with all of the cancellations and postponements that are happening, we're all going to be struggling for cash. Like, you have the opportunity to reach out to other businesses, and I would say volunteer for them, and then have them volunteer for you, so that we can build each other back up. Some of these businesses will not be able to afford extra help, but still need help. If you are in a position where you don't have a wedding on a date that you can go help another business, and then in return, maybe they can come help you when they're not booked for a wedding. If we can carry each other's burdens, and just ride on each other's shoulders and take turns on whose burden we're carrying, I think that will help us weather the storm a lot too. So community is huge, and carrying each other's burdens, I think, will be massive. Reach out, volunteer, and give back, or offer to work for as minimal as possible, and just see if they'll do that back for you. So that's my last thing.
I love that, because, that's, again, it's thinking outside the box. And, especially, I mean, I happen to know a group of ladies that often they don't swap and volunteer time, but they do work for each other and freelance when they're not, and you can see that community's there. But yeah, there's a lot of people that can make a difference, a huge difference, in getting out of this hole then. And so that's a great point. Thank you.
Thanks for having me. It was great to be here. So yeah, thanks so much.